Okay. I'm not sure if it's actually live or if it's working. I had problems with this before. There's a lot more echo in here than I thought. I'm going to try to see if I can fix that really quick. See if maybe opening some of these doors. There's going to be mirrors everywhere, but maybe opening some of these doors, maybe the window. That might have, yeah, it kind of helps the echoing. Okay, so, a lot of stuff happened with my computer, and I think it's going to make a really interesting video for some people to watch. And it's definitely going to be, at least for me personally, pretty interesting to be able to go over and commentate rather, and kind of talk about the mistakes that I made when getting my computer back, as well as some of the things that I did right. So, basically what happened was, in the process of moving, I left my computer with somebody who I thought I trusted, who said that they would watch it so it wasn't on a moving truck and it wasn't going to get damaged or anything like that. And the person pretty much stole it. I went to pick it up shortly after that, and they refused and said, hey, you can't have it back until this is done, this is done, this is done, which they had no right to do. So when I found out they were holding it from me until certain things were done and certain things were paid, I went ahead and contacted RCMP. Now, RCMP is police in the area, but it's also basically Canada's national police, if that makes sense. Officer is gone. I'll look into that later. But this is really difficult to hold. So RCMP said that it would be a civil issue and it wouldn't be a police issue because it was something that I gave to him and not something that he, for example, walked into our house and took. So at that point, I started panicking because it's a very expensive custom computer that was built from the people who watched my YouTube videos, essentially. And you know, it's important to me. I have 3 terabytes of hard drive in there with a lot of personal information. So a few days went by. I was told to do a small claims suit against him, which is what I was perfectly fine doing. I went on the checklist thing, and on the checklist thing for the Civil Resolution Tribune or whatever it is, which is the new way small claims are done in Canada, at least in some areas. One of the first things that I was supposed to do was bring a letter to him. So basically bringing a letter to him or mailing a letter to him, whichever one I chose to do, saying, hey, let's find a time that works for both of us that we can actually sit down in person and negotiate. And try to figure out a solution without having to spend the money to go to court, which is quite expensive, at least for the item that was missing. So I went over to his house to drop off that letter. It was actually quite funny. When I was making the right to turn onto his street, he pulled up behind me. I guess he was coming home from work or whatever. He saw me, stopped his car, and reversed and left the area. Because he knew he was in the wrong. He knew he couldn't hold it, but he thought that I was just too stupid to actually realize and actually do anything about it, which obviously I'm not. So what happened after that was, what the guy looked like, I'm not gonna, even in the video, I'm not gonna mention his name, I'm not gonna mention his phone number or anything, I'm gonna block out everything, because I'm not the kind of person that makes personal attacks on people for no reason. Even though I have somewhat of a reason here, he was a complete asshole, and he's the one who decided to target me. So, so I dropped off that letter at his house. It was 2 days later, which is what I gave on the time frame on that thing. Hadn't heard anything from him. One of my friends actually came to me and said, hey, why don't you try doing this? And explained the situation and linked to a few other places where somebody tried this and it was successful. So basically, what the situation was and what they wanted me to try was saying, hey, I could meet you, I could give you whatever money it is that you want for me to get my own property back. And I suggested maybe $1,500 or $1,000. He responded immediately to that text, but none of the other previous texts, and said, yeah, sure, I can meet you tomorrow at 7 p.m. So I picked the place, which was a police station, obviously for just general safety. and it got to the day, we all met up there. I actually had called RCMP numerous times in advance in terms of the non-emergency line and the police station itself to kind of make sure that what I was about to do was perfectly legal and that it wasn't going to be a criminal issue. So I also called that specific police station in advance to let them know what was going to happen in case at some point, there was some sort of altercation. I'll talk about why that is soon, but in case there was some sort of altercation. So what happened was we met there, he said he's here, and he pulled into the parking lot behind the police station, which there was no lights. It was late in the day, it was like 7, 8 p.m. There was no lights, no security cameras, none of that, which is what I originally texted him. I said, hey, there needs to be security cameras. It needs to be in a public place. So he tried to refuse that. So I ended up convincing him, and this is all recorded, by the way. I was smart about that. It's a 23-minute recording, which I'm going to use in the video that I'm going to put up. So, it is it's a very bad spot to me. So I tell him, hey, can't you just carry it to the front of the building, right by the police sign, and everything like that. Quick, to the person that's asking a whole bunch of questions, I'll get to the questions at the end, but I want to quickly explain the situation first. So we met there. I said I didn't like the area. We ended up agreeing to move to a different area, but I don't think he quite grasped what I was asking him to do. I asked him if he could carry the computer out of his vehicle and put it on the sidewalk in front of the police station so that I could inspect it. So he tried pulling his car up next to the doors, and the hilarious part is this is an entrance to a parking lot for people going to a library, but also for police vehicles entering and leaving the police station. So he's sitting there, hey Eric, but he's sitting there trying to get me to trying to get me to figure this all out while he's blocking a police car from exiting the police station. So I make it very clear to him right away and say, hey, you can't be blocking that, you've got to move. Can't you just go park back there and carry it out to the front? He refused that. So I said, okay, you know what, if this is going to be an issue, why don't we just meet by the dollar store across the street, which has its own completely public parking lot, but a lot of the stores there are closed at this point, so it's pretty much empty. So we went over there, he pulled in first, I had to cross the street to get over to it, which felt like it took forever, but watching the recording back, it was like 2 seconds. So I get there. He has one of the newer Jeeps that has the front end, which looks really ugly in my opinion. And he pulled into a parking spot with a vehicle in front of him, like nose to nose with another vehicle in the parking spot, but no vehicles on the left, right, or behind. So I walked up, he was still sitting in the driver's seat, and when he was back at that parking lot, I noticed that my computer was in his car in the box with the top open though, so that means he opened it, and it was pushed up against the passenger side rear door. So I noticed that there. When I got up to his car, I walked around the back of it, I walked straight towards the back, like the trunk, and towards the passenger side. I looked in the rear window. I didn't see any of the other things that he had of my property, like the keyboard, for example, which is now probably gone. The keyboard, the mouse, any of that other kind of stuff. So I walked to the rear, and then I went over to the passenger side, passenger side rear door. So at this point, he jumped out of the driver's side door, ran up to try to follow me around the back of his car. And when I noticed him get out, I'm like, okay, you know what, at this point, because of the way that he opened the door, I know 100% the door is unlocked. The door to his car is unlocked. My property is right there. So what I did was I had to make a split-second decision. I could have tried to talk to him, figure out where the keyboard is before I did this, or I could just cut my losses, have to buy a new keyboard, and that kind of stuff. So I made, in my opinion right now, what was the smartest decision, and I got my property back. So I opened up the rear passenger door, reached in, grabbed my computer by the handles, and I said, all right, it's now in my possession. I'd appreciate it if you left. So at that point, I'm in possession of my own property. He walked up behind me, grabbed me by the back, and tried to push me into the vehicle. Now, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't think I'll ever be 100% sure if he was trying to push me into the vehicle or if he was trying to prevent me from taking my own property out of the vehicle. It could go either way, so it's really a vague gray area, and I'm not going to press charges or do anything like that. I didn't even call and report that. Yeah, so I got my property that way. Now at this point, I realized I was in a really bad situation. The passenger door was open, so it's blocking my exit to my left, and he was standing right in front of where the opening of the door is, so I was in like that little corner where the door meets the vehicle. So I had no escape. That was a really stupid decision on my part. I should have planned to have an escape route. I had the computer in my hands, which you guys have seen the computer box, it's pretty big. What I tried to do was just walk past him. So after he grabbed me by the back and did all that kind of stuff, I yelled at him. I'm not gonna lie, it freaked me out because I thought he was going to the truck. He ran up behind and pushed me. I screamed, "If you touch me again, I'm calling 911. He took a step back at that point. I noticed that there was a slight escape route, and I went pretty much along where the door is on the vehicle, so to the left or to straight. You should have called the police officers. It's not a police issue at this point, unfortunately. It's a civil issue. And I'll explain more in a second here, but both my hands are full. I'm holding the computer, heavy computer. So I walk past him over to where a sidewalk area is there so that I'm away from the vehicle. So as I'm walking, he reaches out and he tries to grab the computer from me. He sticks his hand in one of the handles and pulls really hard. So I obviously held on to it, I didn't let go, and he said, "Well, how do I know that's your computer?" And I was smart. I don't have the bag here, I thought I did. But I have all the receipts, every single receipt from every single part that I put into the computer with me. So I planned way ahead of this. I got my property. I went over to the sidewalk. There was another person there. I can't remember her name right now, but she was recording. And she said, "Just so you know, this is a public disturbance at this point." And I said, "Yeah, I know." She came over and she started talking to me, and then this guy who took my computer came over and started yelling at me, and she looked at him and she said, "You can't take his computer over an issue with whatever the issue was." I'm not going to say that here. I'll save that for the actual video, because I need to word that very carefully in terms of YouTube. So at this point, he had the bright idea, "Hey, I'm going to call 911 about this." So he went back to his vehicle. He said, "Let's see what the police think about this." He called 911 over me taking my own property back. Now this is the funny part too. So he went in there, he opened the door, and the only part I could hear from the phone call, or at least partially hear, I'm not 100% sure this is what he said, but it's what it sounded like. He had his window down, he was sitting in the backseat of his car, and he said, "Some guy just stole something out of my car," to the 911 dispatcher. So they dispatched it over to the police section, and he had to explain a little bit more as to what happened before they'd send an officer out. They told him not to waste 911 resources and that it was a waste of their time, and pretty much hung up on him. He got out of the car and he said something along the lines of, they said it's not a 911 issue. I replied to him, and actually this is the first time I think after the adrenaline wore off of getting my property back that I laughed hysterically at it. And I said, "You know, you called 911 for that." Laughing, joking, all that kind of stuff. So he asked me for the non-emergency number, which after this whole thing he's actually asking for my help, which is hilarious. I told him that I can't give him it because I'm recording and I don't want to turn off the recording because I still feel threatened. So another guy came over and was helping me as well. He was helping me look through the computer to make sure nothing was damaged. And he said, "Hey, I'm ex-military." So I had one person which was recording the whole thing to my left, I believe. And I had one person that was also to my left that was ex-military, making sure that I wasn't hurt. So that was amazing. So big thank you to those people. I'm going to try to get in contact with them and see if I can get... I know the girl has a video and she said she was going to send it to me. And I want to see if I can get in contact with that guy and ask if maybe that he can give me something that I can read out on this. But anyways, big thank you to them. So he went back into his car, called non-emergency, which is what you were supposed to do. And I told him, "Hey, you know, they're just going to say it's a civil issue. I got my own property out of your car." So he called them. I have talked to probably every single person in the non-emergency line asking questions about this before I went ahead and did it. They knew what I was going to do. They know I was taking my own property back without paying him, which I'm not obligated to do. So I took my property back, and yeah. So the police person at non-emergency told him, "Hey, there's nothing we can do. It's a civil issue. If you have a problem with it, go to small claims court." However, since he took his own property back, there's nothing you can do. And he was so livid at that point when he got out of the car. Yeah, I mean, at that point, he came over, he started giving threats and started, getting into the whole, I can't believe you did that, I can't believe you're like that. But he said, "You're a smart kid, aren't you? You're right, a civil issue." And as he was walking away at the end, he said something like, "You haven't seen the last of me," or "This isn't the last of me that you've seen," which was super cliche. But so now I have my property back, I have my computer back, I'm just waiting on a GPU. I don't have the keyboard, which is a pain in the ass. It was an expensive keyboard that I got for Christmas from my mom. I'm just happy I have my stuff back. My cat went missing too. Same guy let her out, and I got her back yesterday too. So everything that went wrong from this asshole in this situation seems to have worked itself out. If anyone has any questions about this situation in particular or the YouTube channel, feel free to ask them, and I'll try to answer them here. But this video is going to go up as a separate video. I'm not going to delete this stream because it's really interesting. But yeah, it's raining pretty hard right now. Show your cat, please. So my cat's downstairs, and right now she's actually sleeping. She was gone 5 weeks total, and she definitely needs time to sleep. So I'm not going to go and wake her up. But if you check out my Twitter has a whole bunch of pictures of her recently. I really don't want to go and wake her up right now because 5 weeks missing, she needs time to sleep. What were the other questions here? What do you look like? I can't say that right now. Same thing, I can't say his name, I can't say anything like that just because I don't want to cause further issues. Call the police. Unfortunately, it's not a police issue, it's a small claims issue. The only thing that I can think of in that situation that I would have been able to call police about was when he shoved me, but even then, it's a shove. It's not like it was a closed fist punch, it's not like there was intent for harm. That would be really hard for them to prove. But it was just a really shit situation to be in. It was a very, call Batman, yeah, he would help. But it was a very gray area situation for me to be in where I couldn't really get help from law enforcement, aside from them giving me advice on how to do things. But them giving me advice, at 1 a.m., I think it was, 1 or 2 a.m., was when my friend gave me this idea, and I went ahead and called non-emergency to make sure that I wasn't going to be doing anything wrong by taking my own property back. So I was talking to them for 20 minutes. 20 minutes I was talking to the person at non-emergency, which is rare because they want to get the call out as quick as possible so they can move on to the next one. I don't know if it was a slow night or whatever, but they were very, very helpful. They checked with officers about it, they checked with the actual criminal stuff about it, and made sure that I was going to be nothing wrong, and gave me advice on what to do, such as meeting at a police station, and recording and doing all this extra stuff, made sure I had receipts with me. They were really helpful about it. But in terms of him actually taking my stuff, it wasn't a criminal issue because it was something that I left with him and not something that he broke into my house and took. Sorry if I'm pushing my face and trying to read some of these. Why are my videos gone? Do you like big or small trees? So I'll answer the question about the videos. So originally I was planning on stopping YouTube. I did the same thing with my Twitter. The reason for that is YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of stuff are taking up a lot of my time, to be completely honest. And it's something that I wanted more free time. I didn't want to have to be, checking analytics every few days and doing all this kind of stuff. So I think taking a major break from YouTube was enough to really help. So I'm going to focus on YouTube less. That doesn't mean I'm not going to focus on YouTube. It just means that I'm going to worry about my future and actually doing something more than just going on YouTube and making and uploading a video, if that makes sense. But yeah, that should... Yeah, what's up? Not really much. I'm in a pretty good mood today because I was able to get my cat back and the computer. YouTube is my future? No, I disagree. Law enforcement is my future, and if I have videos up that even possibly make me look bad in any way, I'd rather just nuke them, to put it lightly. But yeah, so I'm definitely going to keep this video up as a separate video. Ooh, really dark. Separate video later. Just because I think it kind of covers it a little bit better than that little teaser did. Again, thanks to my brother for that great title. Should work pretty good. Play Fortnite. See, I played Fortnite on stream once, and it's not something that I enjoy, to be completely honest. I'd play PUBG maybe, but Fortnite isn't something that I'm really that interested in. Office, yeah, I'll have to check on that. I'm not really sure what happened with that. I've been away from everything for a while I've been kind of thinking about what to do in terms of YouTube and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I can probably go ahead and end this here. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, contact me on Twitter, or really whatever you want to do. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy I got all my stuff back, even though I never should have lost it in the first place. It's kind of ridiculous, but again, like, RCMP was a huge help leading up to this. Without them, there would have been no way I would have got my property back. So obviously a huge thanks to them. Hold on a second, let me actually read that. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That sucks, man. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. I'm not sure if YouTube has the chat replay thing up from here or not, so it should be pretty interesting. But again, thanks to everyone who stayed and didn't just unsubscribe when I was gone for a few months. I'm planning on doing more LSPDFR videos. I'm planning on doing more stuff like that. But the difference is going to be it's not uploaded as often, but it should be better quality and it should seem like I actually enjoy it more. If you go and watch the last few LSPDFR videos, LSPDFR videos, you can tell that I really wasn't enjoying it as much because I had to record them multiple times in order to get something I was somewhat satisfied with. I will bring back some of the older videos. All of the LSPDFR videos that were actual like series videos are up, and some of the more popular videos are up. I'll go ahead and look and see what other videos I want to bring up, but I'm not bringing them all back. But yeah, that should end this here. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully the great Bamboozle getting my computer back will turn out to be a good video.